Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drinking Champagne. If I remember to hit the Drinking Champagne background, there we go. Joined as always by Mr. Andrew Champagne. Andrew, how you doing, my friend?
Trying to hang in there as best I can, which I think encapsulates a lot of people at this current moment for a variety of different reasons. Really busy couple of weeks have continued this week. I am helping my fiance dog sit while her parents are overseas visiting friends and family in China and Hong Kong, keeping busy with a lot of the other things that I do. Had myself a heck of a few days with my dad being in town over Breeders' Cup weekend. We'll talk a lot more about that as we go. It's not quite playing at the BCBC and spending a bunch of energy breaking even like our buddy Caleb did, or rooting him on from the rail like you did and like his father did, but had a pretty good couple of days here. Always a blast to be able to see my dad. I'll see him again in a couple of weeks when I go to Vegas. In fact, I fly to Vegas 3 weeks from today. I've got to start getting excited for that.
Yeah, I was putting the suitcase back into the garage. That I generally we have we have a couple suitcases here, but there's generally like two or three that we use frequently. There's one that I've taken a liking to. This gray suitcase from a company called Away, and so I was putting it back into the garage, and my wife was downstairs working, and I gave the suitcase a big hug, and I'm like, I'll see you in about a month. And she's like looks at me and she goes, "Oh, that's right, Vegas." I was like, "Yep." So I'll be in Vegas. I think it's like the first full week of December, if I remember correctly. I'll have to double check the dates. I honestly, we were talking about Breeders' Cup a little bit and kind of how fast it kind of came up. I felt like from the end of Saratoga till now, the last couple months have just been a blur. So yeah, stuff came up real quick. Obviously, we I was at Del Mar this weekend, and we'll talk a lot about that. But yeah, I'll be in Vegas in a couple weeks too, and yeah, it's stuff is just kind of really really quickly come upon us. I know you and your father you go during Thanksgiving, and yeah, I'm on the fence on whether or not I'm gonna be playing the Hawthorne tournament over that weekend. So, yeah, lot of stuff coming up. But it'd be remiss if we didn't kind of start with our main topic, obviously being the Breeders' Cup this last weekend, and probably our main topic, and we'll talk the most about here. But obviously, I was on site, first time ever going to Del Mar, first time ever going to California in general. And Andrew, I got to tell you, man, it was eventful traveling to California. I did send you the what seems to be the ceremonial picture that we generally send each other flying Southwest, which is getting that seat without the seat in front of you.
Enjoy
Um,
it for now because eventually they're going to start charging an arm and a leg for that seat.
and some planes only have one of them.
Yep.
I found that out this last time. But yeah, Andrew, so I'm in line getting ready to board the plane, right? And I'm in like I'm like A50 something, I think.
Oh,
And
that's
so I'm
gutsy.
and so I'm just standing there waiting, and as we are getting ready to get on, we're in line. They're like, just a quick announcement. This flight is now going to Dallas. And everyone looks around like, what? What is going on? So apparently there was a band of storms, uh, basically extending from Canada all the way down to Texas, and there was basically no way around them. So Southwest plan was to fly to Dallas, and because this plane was only had enough fuel to make the 4 hour flight, that is, Chicago to San Diego, was going to have to stop and get fuel in Dallas.
Yep.
So basically, we flew to Dallas, which is about a 3 hour flight um, from Chicago, and spend about 90 minutes on the tarmac to refuel, and they basically had to rebalance the plane and do some
Yep.
other stuff. Um, and then we didn't get off the plane, so we were just like we're on the tarmac, and then flew from Dallas to San Diego, which is about a 2 hour flight ish, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
that's not bad.
So I originally was going to land around 10:30 local time. I didn't land till about 12:15 a.m. Um, and I remember because it was basically 2 hours and 45 minutes late, which, if anybody knows anything about uh, airlines in general, usually it's about 3 hours where you finally get some type of compensation. Well, they made sure that we got there 2 hours and 45 minutes, not the 3 hours. So they were not, they did not have to give us any type of compensation or anything like that. So, um, but luckily for me, Mark was going to land about half hour to an hour after I was originally. Well, he landed at his normal time. He went and picked up the rental car, and he waited for me. So, shout out
What
to
a
Mark.
guy. What a
Yeah, shout out
guy.
to Mark.
We
I know.
give him so much crap on this show. He catches so many strays. Positivity this week, at least for now.
Yeah, but so he waited for me, and we got to the Airbnb, and I basically like passed out because at that point it was probably like, I
You
don't
mean
know,
you didn't have
1:30.
the energy to go to downtown San Diego and just tear up the town after being delayed 2 hours and
Uh,
45 minutes? Heck's wrong with you, man?
so Andrew, I don't know if you have this problem. You probably don't, but I have a problem. I generally don't adjust to time changes. So, and this happens all the time when I go to Vegas, right? Like, I go to bed relatively early Vegas time. Like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., because that's just what I'm used to over here in Chicago, which, works out to about midnight, 1 o'clock local time. And I wake up pretty early in the West Coast. And this was no different. We were basically going to bed, like everyone was kind of wrapping up and going to bed around like 9:30, 9 o'clock local time. And I was waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and people who know me know I am not a morning person. So it was just like they were like, "Oh my goodness, we're not actually waiting for Josh to wake up for once." It was pretty funny, but yeah, we had a real nice Airbnb. I think it was like Mission Beach, Mission Bay area. I forget what the area is called. Um, it was about 20 minutes from the airport, about 20 minutes from Del Mar, with the exception of one day where we caught some like really, really insane traffic on the way back. But
Yeah, that'll happen because once you get south of a certain point going towards San Diego, there's one way north and one way south. And if there's any nonsense anywhere, it's hell. So, yeah, that tracks.
yeah, someone said that there might have been like a fire or something going on, or something happened um, when when we were driving, and that might have been what it was, because it was really weird because every other day except for that day we got home with no issue.
Nice.
So yeah, so it was interesting, but I'll tell you, the way it diverted us, probably some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen in person. It's San Diego is beautiful.
Yup.
It's probably the most beautiful place I've ever visited. um Yeah, it's great. I will say the weather, people talk about how great the weather in Southern California is. Um, I mean, it was fine. It was warmer in Chicago than it was in San Diego, which, is probably not normal for this time of year, but I had brought shorts and polos, and I definitely needed pants and long sleeves. So it wasn't that warm. I'll put it that way, but it was nice. But we had a great time. Obviously, our Airbnb was great. And you know, Caleb, well, maybe it was more Mark. Caleb, I think, felt kind of like I did, was pretty neutral on most things, but Mark and Caleb's dad in particular, uh, and I know it's been a while since you've been to Del Mar, Andrew, but he said they sure make that track look a lot better on TV than it actually is.
So the thing with Del Mar is when it's not a racetrack, it's part of the fairgrounds. It's a multi use property, and they do a great job dressing it up as well as they do. The thing that you're not going to understand unless you're there is yeah, the beach is kind of close, but the presentation of it being right on the beach and you can just, leave the track and walk 10 seconds and you're on the beach. No, it's a fantastically placed camera shot. The television production professional in me applauds that and thinks it's incredibly brilliant as a marketing tool, but it's not right on the beach. And if you think it's right on the beach, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it was. I thought the facility was great. They Caleb's dad and Mark had a little bit of an issue with, I think, the BCBC kind of setup, and I think the organizers themselves had kind of mentioned that they just don't have a lot of room, and they had to kind of make do with what they did. There was a couple of things that were kind of weird, and like this is very very much BC specific, not necessarily with the rest of it. And that was basically they gave the players had one color wristband, and if you were a guest, you had a different color wristband. If you had a player wristband, you could get into one of like two rooms, right, that you were assigned, and then the guests were only allowed in the one room, right? The thinking being, oh, the players will be playing sitting in this one room and the guests will be hanging out in this like lounge area in this other room. The problem is, Andrew, let's say you brought a guest. Would you want to be separated from that guest the entire day?
No.
So what happened was everybody went over to the lounge room, and
Yep.
there was like confusion where like someone had brought this up. I think Caleb's dad might have brought this up to one of the organizers or something, and or one of the people in charge, and was like there's no Wi-Fi in the other room, and the guy's like, yeah, it's not the players' room, and Caleb's dad's like, well, why like my son wants to sit next to me and all these other people want to sit there, and like you heard like there were a couple times where guys were getting locked out or like not able to get a bed in or something like that, and one guy got really really mad and is like, this is supposed to be for players, like what is going on, because there were no machines. There was a lack of machines. It was hard for these guys to get bets in because they were sitting in this other room that had literally three machines in it versus maybe the players room had more. I don't know. I didn't see the players room, but nope, like everybody was in the lounge area because they wanted to be with their person. So that was kind of weird. As far as the rest of the food was fine. The honestly the service there was pretty good in my opinion. But I don't know. The track it's definitely beautiful. The first day we were on the roof. I got a really good shot of the track, from the roof. I posted a short little vlog, 10 minutes or so, of just some like thoughts I had like actually during the stuff and some pictures and stuff like that I took, some video. I will say the apron's not great because of the fact that it's kind of lower than everything else. So that's kind of a tough. It's not the same like rail experience you would get at a place like Saratoga or somewhere else, but I don't know. Overall, I mean, I liked it. I would definitely go back. And as a whole, I will say much better Breeders' Cup experience than Keeneland was. I mean, maybe it's the fact that I didn't pay anything for this ticket because Mark bought into the contest versus the $1,500 I spent to sit as far as humanly possible from the track at Keeneland. But um, yeah, it was a good time, and that's just the experience of it. We haven't even discussed about the racing.
Yeah, Del Mar gets the experience part pretty good for the most part. I mean, you're in San Diego. Most of the time, the weather is gorgeous. You wind up with a beach reasonably close by. The Del Margaritas are flowing. Our friend Matthew DeSantis reviewed the Del Margarita and very much enjoyed it. Del Mar is one of those places where if it's your first experience going to the racetrack, it's easy to fall in love with the game. From my standpoint, I prefer this place back here for a variety of different reasons. The track apron experience, definitely one of them. It's lower. You can't really see anything. There are a couple of tracks in California over the years that have been like that. The Big Fresno Fair is a lot like that with the apron very, very low. Hollywood Park's apron was pretty low. Only went there once, but if you're right up by the rail, you really couldn't see a whole heck of a lot. You had to stand back sort of on the upslope to be able to see horses going down the backstretch and turning for home. Wasn't ideal from a sightlines perspective, but is San Diego providing a fantastic Breeders' Cup experience? That is in no way a shock to me.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the races. Andrew, I guess the easiest way I can describe my betting for this weekend: Friday good, Saturday bad. I don't know what your your thoughts were.
Um, Ran second and third a lot both days. If you needed an underneath horse to outrun their odds at a bonkers price, most of the time I was right there for you. The saving grace of my weekend was Rebels Romance, winning the Breeders' Cup Turf and concluding a campaign that I don't think we're ever going to see again from any horse in horse racing, with how many countries that horse ran in and how many Group 1 races he wound up winning. That saved my weekend between doubles and win bets and 2-day doubles and a whole bunch of other stuff. That wound up stopping the bleeding. I ran second and third a ton. I was 3 for 4 in a pick 4 that included the classic. I had Moira to finish it out going 6 deep. I went 6 deep in the classic and did not include Sierra Leone. That was a pretty disgusting beat. Also didn't include Fierceness, but I was trying to go against that one. I was also trying to go against City of Troy. It just a lot of near misses for me. And there were some instances where if a horse that I had that ran second runs first, it's a profitable weekend. I'm put myself in good spots. Just wound up running second and third a fair bit across multiple tracks. And I've got a couple of stories about that one that we can get into after we finish talking about the Breeders' Cup and the BCBC and everything that went on in San Diego. All told, not a bad Breeders' Cup for me. Just one of those instances where you flip one or two results and it turns into a really good Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I honestly had a really tough weekend. Um, Now I ended up positive. So I mean, obviously that's always a good feeling, but it was tough. I basically I basically went, oh, I don't know. I went the entire first day, the first maybe 6 races, not able to connect anything. Um, and it wasn't until the Lake Victoria race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf, um, where I started kind of getting it going. I had the exacta with Lake Victoria over Mayday ready for
Mayday Ready is such a cool horse, man.
yep, had that for I think about $20, 10 or $20. And it paid, I want to say
49 and change for
Yeah.
$2.
So I had it for $10. Yeah, because I cashed about 250 off that. Then I had a double from Lake Victoria into the two Baffert horses, Citizen Bull and is it Gaming?
Gaming, yeah.
Yep. So I had a double into those two, hit that for $10, and then I hit the pick three for $5 into is it Henri Matisse in the
Henri
last
Matisse,
race?
yeah.
Yep. So hit that pick three for $5. So those three races combined left me up about $1,300 for the day. And I didn't hit another bet after the next day. So luckily I practiced good control, good bankroll management. And I basically brought what I was planning on playing Saturday. I didn't change the amount I was going to bring. Brought that, and then I brought like an extra $100 on
Right.
top of it. Lost it. Then I went to the casino the next day with Caleb's family and Caleb and Mark, and lost that money. But I still came home with enough with money in my pocket. I came up positive for the trip.
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the juvenile and well, actually, let's talk about the BCBC a little bit because I think Friday was I don't know, Caleb, Mark, and we talked a little bit. I I had some opinions on how they played some stuff, but obviously, I'm not the one to like try and talk people out of money that they're betting because
And
you know
you're also not going to railbird and go, "You suck. What are you doing?" Yeah.
yeah. But we talked about it a little bit after. Mark Mark messed up one pretty bad. Like I think the one mistake Mark made, um, and it might have changed how stuff kind of worked out, was he really liked Citizen Bull. He really liked Lake Victoria to the point where he doubled into Lake Victoria for the full for his minimum amount, the like $600 or $300, I think, because I think he used two horses. Made a decent amount on that horse, and then started a double with Citizen Bull and whiffed going to the next race. But what he didn't do was use his two singles in the middle between Lake Victoria to Citizen Bull, and um, I, I think that wouldn't have happened if he was playing at home. Um, if I'm going to be honest with you, I think just being on site, I think you get caught up. You maybe you're not looking at stuff as closely as you normally are, and things like that. And I just think that like when I talked with him, he's like, I didn't think Citizen Bull was going to be that price. And I think if you would have looked at the probables, he would have seen that Citizen Bull was going to be that price, and he was going to get everything that he would have wanted. And I think going single for a couple $100 there, I think would have set him up better for Saturday. Um, Caleb, um, Caleb played fine. There was like one show bet he made that was like used the half show bet. He says he's got no problems the way he played it, so I'm not going to harp too much on it because he still thinks he's right. But as that's not how I would have played it. But like I said, it's tough with I find it sometimes tough with horse racing to not be results oriented and not be like, hey, like, because Lake Victoria and Citizen Bull won, it's easy to see that playing that $600 double, right, was the play. But I think with Mark, it's a little bit more because he was single. I think it's just much more apparent. Like, hey, like this was your opinion, single. Like you should have used both of them. I just think he got caught up being on site and just maybe didn't look at it close enough. Caleb, good looking as he is, he never does anything wrong. So I'm not going to fault him too much for it. But I think that was kind of like the big kind of miss. And then, like I said, once you have that bankroll, maybe Mark plays Saturday a little bit differently, and things turn out different. But at least from a tournament perspective, that seemed to me to kind of be the big thing that kind of happened there. And yeah, I mean, we talk a little bit about our stream. Both Caleb and Mark gave out big bombs as long shots in More Than Looks and Starlust that both won. And I think Mark and Caleb both, I don't think capitalized as much on those long shots in the tournament, but I think it's also a little tough, right? Like when at that point, that late into the day, I think they were trying to to do other stuff, try to do other make other plays, but that was great. Obviously, Andrew, your best bet in Rebels Romance won there. But yeah, it was Friday going into Saturday. Saturday I just was wrong on so many accounts. And the one time I was kind of almost a little bit right, I didn't bet it, and that's in Sierra Leone. I Caleb was like, "You were like the highest on Sierra Leone than anybody on the stream." I was like, "Yeah," because Matthew was like, "If you like time form, like you gotta like this horse. He's constantly improving." Um, I think Fierceness ran the best race still. Um, I think me liking City of Troy is probably going to go down as the second dumbest opinion of the entire stream. And the most dumb opinion is going to be anybody who liked Next. So, but I mean, hindsight 2020 and everything. But I don't know, Andrew. What did you think of Saturday?
So Saturday was an absolute blast for me, and we'll get into why. I mentioned as far as handicapping goes, Rebels Romance was very good for me. I ran second and third a ton. We started off the day with an absolute gut punch with Soul of an Angel rallying to pass my try in order that finished 2-3-4 with the Bob Baffert trainee that was very lightly raced running the race of her life and finishing third, beaten about that much. That hurt. There were a couple of other things that hurt throughout the day. When they turned for home in the Classic, I saw Sierra Leone moving, but for a couple of strides, because of the way that camera is positioned, sometimes the horse that's moving a couple pats off the rail looks like they're maybe sputtering a little bit. And I saw Newgate between horses. And I'm going, oh, come on, Big Baffert Price, Big Baffert Price. And then it becomes abundantly clear that Sierra Leone just has way too much horse. That was a tough beat. If you had Fierceness, that one hurts because Fierceness ran his eyeballs out. Not sure the fractions were right that were posted. I don't buy that Derma Sotogake went 44-4 to the half, but they went fast. That was a big effort by Fierceness. And Josh, you were dead right with how you saw that race. It's just, if it comes in Fierceness over Sierra Leone, you're dancing. As it stands right now, not so much there. But from my standpoint, my plans on Saturday were very much TBD up until Friday afternoon when I got a call from the Alameda County Fairgrounds. They were looking for a guest handicapper to come in and do a two-person show on the Golden State Racing simulcast show. Came together very quickly. Shout out to the people at Golden State Racing for reaching out, for having me. It was an absolute blast. I did a day-long thing with a young gentleman by the name of Aiden Molinaro, who has been doing a lot of their social media stuff. And he had a very good day. He finished very strong. He gave out Straight No Chaser in the sprint, and he gave out Full Serrano in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So those were not necessarily easy horses to have by any means. He did really well. Shout out to him. Personally, in the Dirt Mile, when they turned for home, I was screaming for Tumba Rumba, who wound up finishing third at, I believe, 40 or 45-1. So that was the long shot I gave you on the stream. That one at least gave you a thrill. But that was my weekend in a nutshell. I gave out live horses. The other one that stung was on Friday with El Mori City breaking through the starting gate. They just reloaded, ran the horse. Horse was third, beaten a length. And if that race was about 70 yards longer, I think that one gets up. That one hurt a little bit. I still had the juvenile turf double a couple of times with Henri Matisse. But if that's Omori City getting up, it becomes a much, much better weekend for me. But yeah, on Saturday, I did something that I don't think anybody in the history of horse racing has ever done, because I did the Pleasanton simulcast feed. And then later that night, my videos showed up on the Hong Kong simulcast feed from Sha Tin. That's 2 tracks on 2 different continents in the same day.
Hmm.
As legacies go, that's a pretty cool thing to check off, because I don't think anybody's ever done that.
Yeah, that was when you messaged me about that, I was like, "Oh man, that's pretty crazy."
It worked out
Um,
pretty good. And I wound up actually having a pretty decent night at Shot 10 too. I went 3 for 10 at a positive ROI there. So I can't complain too much, especially with how hard those races are over in Hong Kong. Anytime you wind up going 3 for 10, chances are you're going to make money. And that's something that's worth, saying, hey, I actually did some good stuff here.
yeah, yeah. On Friday, Amori City, I also had on that $5 pick five that would have paid significantly more.
He
That would have
ran
been
giant. I believe he was about 10 to 1, and Henri Matisse was about half that price. I mean, Henri Matisse ran well. I'm not surprised that horse wound up winning. But if you look back, Omori City is around the wire by the time they're able to wrangle him, turn him back around. I don't know if he wins without the antics, hijinks, or shenanigans, but you look at that race and not a lot set up for him. He was way far back. He had to circle the entire field. He comes running and he's third, beaten a length. That was a horse that I funneled a lot of my action through on Friday. I did wind up canceling a couple of exacta bets when that horse broke through the starting gate, which saved me some money. So that was a smart, sound financial decision on my end. But that's certainly an instance where you're going, man, I picked the best horse at a bit of a price and the horse ran well, just didn't get up. And I have to think that there's a couple of people in the BCBC that felt that way at the end of the day Friday, because that's the type of horse you salivate over in a contest setting. A horse with powerhouse connections, 10 to 1 odds on the board, that runs really well and just doesn't get there. I mean, you almost prefer to be last beaten 30 than what happened in that instance, because you had a good opinion, your horse ran really well at a price, and just didn't get there.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, my Saturday, I mean, was just I got I don't know, man. I had the 14 in the first race, which paid 26 to 1 on a ticket.
Wait a minute, you had that horse?
I did. And
How?
then because I told myself I wanted all of the AEs because they were all closers and I wanted
Okay,
a closer in that race.
because I looked at that race and I tried to figure out anything to like about that horse after the fact, and I'm going, okay, hasn't run since July of 2023, draws the 14 hole, gets Kent DeSormo, and DeSormo puts forth one of the best rides of the weekend.
It was Barrios, Hector
Oh,
Barrios.
they changed. Okay.
Basormo was listed and it changed to Hector
Okay.
Barrios. Yeah.
Because I remember looking at that and I'm just going, wait, does Sormo? But that makes sense because I watched that race on mute from the Black Bear Diner outside of Pleasanton. By the way, highly recommend that establishment. Yeah, it's okay. That makes a little bit more sense, because I'm just going, does Sormo really? And up until this very moment, 5 days later, I'm thinking, oh, it must have been DeSormo on that horse. Barrios makes a little bit more sense. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And then I had I probably was it all my money? Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of a different horse. I get through I get through that. I get Hope Road and then I get through Rakia. I have that horse too in the Goldkova. I'm sitting pretty, and I have Society singled.
Brutal. Just absolutely brutal. I mean, the thing was, and then after that race, you find out that Heisa fines and suspends Drayden Van Dyke for 5 or 6 times the amount of money they got Luan Machado for at Keeneland. Like,
Yeah,
just, there's nothing about that that doesn't stink. And I'm looking at the stretch run, furlong to go. I'm thinking Society's home. Then I'm thinking the Baffert horse is home. And I've got both of those horses. But as it turned out, that didn't wind up costing me a whole heck of a lot because I was singled to Cogburn in the turf sprint. And Cogburn went from can't lose to all of the warning lights flashing in about 3 jumps.
yeah. And then unfortunately race 2, um, I think I used Hope Road on a ticket, but I think I had a pretty large double with the 14
Yeah.
to a horse that I really liked in the second race, which was the 2 Desert Dawn.
Who
And
ran
Desert,
really well late and was third. Yeah.
yeah, and just got completely left at the beginning. And after the gate popped, it was just like was way too far back. So it was a tough start to the day. And then I basically ran second. I was nowhere close in the sprint. Torpedo Anna, which we'll talk about shortly. I had Rebels Romance, um, and then Sierra Leone. I talked about, but I left off the ticket. I was all in basically on Fierceness and City of Troy there, and then Moira. What a great horse, right? What a cool story that horse is. What a cool horse. Um, I'll tell you, I was on Didia at 10-1 in that race. I liked Cinderella's Dream. I ran second and third again there. And for a split second in the straight, Didia's about a length off. And I'm like, she's gonna do it. She was 3 wide. I thought she was gonna do it, and just didn't have anything. Ended up finishing, getting passed by Cinderella's Dream. Then I thought Cinderella's Dream's going to do it,
Yep.
and then Moira just kept on and found and won. And it was a really really cool race. Um, and then the Breeders' Cup Sprint, probably the race I had the just absolutely no clue going into. And I'll tell you, the results felt exactly how I thought. Like I don't think I get to that 8 horse in a million years. He got bet down pretty good to what, 6-1.
6 to
Um,
1. Yeah.
I wasn't anywhere near that. And then, you know, same thing with the mile. Like I was just not even close after that, and just was burning money. so, but I really do think I don't know, kind of the big story, or I don't know, the big story, but at least it's the Torpedo Anna. I mean, probably the one of the coolest stories of the entire year, and just absolutely, went out there, did exactly what we thought she would do in that race. Was 2-5 in that race, so everyone kind of was was all over that, but just such a cool horse. So happy for her, happy for the connections. You know, Kenny ran that horse anywhere and everywhere. Reminded me of what was the other filly he had a couple years
Swiss
back?
skydiver.
Swiss Skydiver. Yep. Just not afraid to run his horses. So great. In my opinion, probably horse of the year. I'm sure.
I think so. I don't think it's cut and dry. I am very intrigued by the people who are trying to say, oh, she never beat boys. She beat all but one boy in the Travers, including the horse that won the Breeders' Cup Classic. And by the way, if that's your gripe and you voted for Zenyatta the year she lost the Breeders' Cup Classic, sit your ass down.
Luckily, I don't have a vote, so
Well,
I just have an opinion.
one of us does. So the thing that I am still coming to grips with, there's two categories actually: champion 3-year-old male and champion older dirt male. That's going to be an interesting thing that I need to sort out because there is no cut and dry winner of either of those divisions. As far as champion older male goes, I think the horse that benefited the most from the Breeders' Cup didn't run in the Breeders' Cup. National Treasure has won, what, 3 Grade 1 races this year?
Yeah.
That's probably your leader in the clubhouse right now. And that could change if a horse that won in a Breeders' Cup race comes back and runs in the Cigar Mile or the Clark or the Malibu or something. But I don't know how likely that is. So it's certainly going to be something I'll be weighing as we wind up going into award season. But there's a lot that's been going on there. And it's going to be a case where you're going to wind up with some dissension in the vote because some of these horses just don't run as much as they used to. And there are categories where 2 Grade 1 wins might be enough to get you a spot on the podium.
Yeah, I think the champion 3-year-old's an interesting discussion. I think everyone is going to, I think recency, right, is going to tell you Sierra Leone, but, you know, it's a long time to go between wins. And I don't know.
I mean, fierceness, Dornock. Let's not forget Dornock winning the Belmont and the Haskell.
You can forget about Dornock.
Seize the Gray winning 2 Grade 1s.
Forget about that one too.
I'm just saying this is not cut and dry. I don't know yet what I am going to do with my vote. We'll see what happens. And if any connections out there are incredibly concerned about my vote, I guarantee you, if I'm wrong, I will not contest the election. I will simply say, hey, congratulations, because that's what we do in a civilized democracy. Sometimes the other side wins and we sit back and we say, well played, congratulations. And you can take that however you want to. I've got one other story from Saturday that I want to tell really quick before we wind up bidding our fans and listeners adieu for the week. So for those of you who do not know, Jason Beam has been doing the track announcing at Pleasanton for this meet. It's the first Golden State Racing meet after they got the dates following the closure of Golden Gate Fields. And I had this idea in my head when I got to the track that particular day. And I saw Jason very briefly before the day started. I could tell he was in a hurry. I wasn't going to bother him. I just said, hey, Jason, how you doing? Good to see you. At the end of the card, there's about 2 minutes to post for race number 8, which is the last at Pleasanton. And we finish our analysis of the day, and I thank everybody there that came out for the Breeders' Cup. They had a good crowd, by the way. It was fun. And the last thing that I said before I shut the mic off for the day, I looked up and I went, no matter what else happens over the course of my career, I will always be a Beamy Award winner. Thank you and good night. I haven't talked to Jason about that. I'm just guessing he wasn't thrilled at that. But come on, this is me. You know what you're getting. And if I can knock people's socks off for 99% of the day and have fun with the other 1%, I'm going to take that. So it was an absolute blast. Again, thank you to everybody at Pleasanton, not just the people that work there, but the people that showed up. There are a lot of places in this game that make it hard to be a racing fan sometimes. That place makes it easy when they've got the place rocking. And on Saturday it was. So it was a blast. Hopefully they have me back. And yeah, it was great to be able to do that stuff. And my dad being in town, being able to see everything, that was pretty cool. And then being able to come home and watch the Hong Kong feed and see my videos there on the same day. It's not quite Rick Rude showing up on Raw and Nitro on the same night when one was live and one was pre-recorded, but it's not a bad legacy to have. There's a lot of talented people in this business, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, go down in the comments on YouTube. I don't think anybody else has done that.
And that's going to do it for us here on Drank and Champagne. Obviously, check Andrew out at Andrew Champagne on Twitter, winnersandwhiners.com. I am at Cherry Drank. You can check our stuff at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. big shout out to everyone I got to meet this weekend. Shoddy, Missouri Cowgirl, Alex, Haley, Dan from the Discord, obviously Matthew DeSantis. Always great to hang out with him, and for him to rate a Del Margarita, and anyone else I can think of. I think that was it. But
shout out to the state of Missouri for legalizing sports betting on Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, guys, have a good one.